Hello, I'm Zan, and it's Monday here on Diary of a Gender Fluid. So last week I didn't post a video because I was at Girl Scout camp. I spent all week there counseling girls and teaching 12-year-olds how to become leaders, because at my camp at age 13 the girls start having the responsibility of leading the younger girls. So that was what I spent my week doing. I guess I just wanted to tell you a couple stories about my experience with gender and sexuality at Girl Scout camp. So my camp experience there is slightly different than other people's because my family sort of runs the camp. No, Heather. No. When I was growing up, I had two Girl Scout leaders. It was my mom and my friend's stepmom. So they ended up taking over the entire Girl Scout camp for our service unit. So that's like about 300 girls. I made a friend a few years back there at camp who is the other woman who runs the camp. It's her sister's kid. This year we had a bit of trouble figuring out if he was going to be able to come back because he is transgender and just got on T like 9 months ago, I think. But everything worked out really well with that, so that was good. But we did have a very interesting experience, the two of us. We sleep at camp every single night, just like the camp directors. None of the girls do that, but only certain ages of girls can sleep over in general, and all of them go home on Tuesday, but we stay out the whole week. So we also have these golf carts that we love to take whenever nobody needs them and just floor it through the woods on these little paths. So one day I was going up the hill with a golf cart to pick up my friend and it died. Let's call him Jay. So I yelled out for Jay while I was holding the cart in place, and then we just pushed it up the nice steep hill. And then we had to call the ranger on the walkie-talkie, and he came over to refill it with gas, and I wrote down what he said because this was interesting. So he looked at Jay and I and said, "Good morning, ladies," and then took a double take and said, "Gentlemen," and then a third look and said, "and everyone else." And we just thought that that was the most amazing thing, and he was like totally serious and everything about it all, like, gosh, that was just so cool. And then there was this guy doing caricatures for the older girls, and Jay and I got to go first because we were leaving the area since we weren't really like hanging with the girls the whole time, you know. First Jay's friend goes and the sketch artist is like, "Oh, no ladies first?" I thought that he was talking about Jay and I was just like, ah. But then Jay went second, and then I went third, and he just looks over at all of us, the sketch artist, and he's like, "So we're doing all the guys first?" And Jay and I are just smiling and exchanging a look, and it was just awesome because he didn't make our pictures feminine. He totally thought we were just cis guys, and then all the girls went after. Then we had a little bit of interesting experience in our group with the 11, 12-year-olds that we were in charge of for the week. So it was time to make dinner with the girls on the fire, and I mentioned my significant other. I don't remember how it came up. And then a girl was like, "You have a significant other?" And then I said, "Yes." "Who is it?" "My significant other." "So you have a boyfriend?" "No." "So you don't have a significant other?" "I do." "Who?" "The person I live with." "That's not a significant other, except that I'm dating them." "So you do have a boyfriend?" "Nope." "What's his name?" Then I ignored the question while directing girls to prepare dinner. "What's his name?" "That's none of your business." And then she started listing male names beginning with A and continued down the alphabet for a while. So that was interesting. They did a similar thing with Jay's significant other, just listing guy names So we were like, oh, you're never gonna figure it out. They also played this guessing game like all week to figure out our real names. Because at camp we have camp names, and Jay is Sushi, I'm Bunny. So later on, a girl was like, what's your real name? And I said, my name is Bunny. No, it isn't. And then Jay jumped in and was like, yeah, it is. Their parents hate them. And the girl was like, no, what's your real name? And I'm like, it's Bunny. And then girl number 2 comes in and says, I know her real name. And Jay is like, what do you think it is? And girl number 2 says my old nickname that my parents still call me. And I just respond with, nope. And the girl is like really certain that that's my name. And she's like, yeah, it is. And so then they go trying to like ask all of my relatives that they can find, my aunt, my uncle, my cousins, my mom, my dad, just everybody that they can find who's related to me at camp. She keeps coming back and being like, yeah, it is. That's it. It's your old nickname, insert here. And James and I are just like, well, I 100% promise you're wrong. And eventually they guessed my real full name, and I said, nope. And then they were trying to figure out Jay's name. And they're guessing all these girl names, you know, just like they did for me. And we're just both like, you're never gonna guess it. You're never gonna get it. And the same one who figured out my old name figured out Jay's old name too, and was like, it's this. And we were both like, nope. So at the very end, finally Jay is like, okay, fine. You want to know my real name? And the girls were like, yeah. And he was like, alright, it starts with a J. And everybody starts guessing. This girl Bubbles, on her second guesses Jay's name, which is, you know, stereotypically a boy's name. And Jay is just like, yep. And Bubbles repeats it like, this name? And Jay's like, yep. And then we were there, telling the truth, but saying it with a sarcastic tone, so that the girls didn't think we were serious, but we were 100% serious, and we're like, yep, that's Jay's name. That's it, you figured it out. And the girls were like, no, what is it really? But by the end of that day, we were able to convince them that it really is Jay. Insert real name here. We also taught them 2 important things they'll need to know, one for life and one for camp. So first, Jay taught them about consent, which is the one we were like, you need to know this forever, for the rest of your life, you need to know this. So, you know, like, they need to get an absolute yes before they can touch anybody, before they can touch anybody else's belongings. You know, practicing consent, consent, consent. All the time. And they got really good at it. The other lesson we taught them was specifically for camp, and that's false optimism. So I would say something like, alright girls, now we get to clean the latrines. And they would be like, oh. And I would be like, where's that fake optimism? And then they would cheer, woo, latrines, let's clean the porta potty. Or Jay would be like, alright, now we get to pick up the garbage. And they'd be like, oh. And then I would just be like, woo, garbage. And all the girls would cheer. Because that's a skill you need for camp. Smile. Even when you're exhausted and had 2 hours of sleep last night, because it's all about giving the younger girls a good experience at camp. We also found a few girls there that we thought might be queer, and so we're keeping an eye open for them just in case they ever need anything, because Girl Scout camp is not exactly the best place to be queer or trans, because, you know, we have to say grace every single time before we eat. It's a Christian thing. And that cannot sit well sometimes with people who are outside of what some denominations of Christianity believe to be right. So yeah, it's very odd being queer at camp, being trans at camp, basically being anything queer related at an all-girls camp is a bit weird. and slightly difficult because we have to misgender each other, we have to lie a bit, we have to, pretend to be cisgender heterosexual. But it's also a really good time, so I don't know. If you have any experiences about being queer or trans or both at a all insert gender here camp, then let me know in the comments below. Yeah, just thought I'd share that strange experiences I had at camp. So I'm Zan, and I'll see you next Monday.